This is this courageous conversation we need to have, which is not us being mean to each other and putting out our opinions, but really looking at what we know, what we have learned, what we are finding out. And one of the problems with cannabis is been on the forbidden to talk about list and the forbidden to think about list for way too long. So now, Elisabeth, I'm really curious. You got into it for pain management, and that is a very common way to use cannabis. I mean, there is a lot of work being done on cannabis and pain, but not just physical pain. I think emotional, social, what people would call social anxiety, I call social pain. It's painful to be in social situations. It's painful to be in settings where I feel so anxious I can't think. It's painful. And I think it really is, to a point where, okay, so if we can deal with that, that's something. But let's talk. And so I think, so that speaks to me into dementia world. But talk to me about how you got interested in the world of dementia when it comes to cannabis.
Well, so what happened was, once I started my firm, Holistic Caring, I started networking with physicians, and I met a palliative care physician here in San Diego, Integrated MD Care, and he was working with seniors who were in end-of-life pain. And a lot of them had lots of different conditions. So sometimes it was chronic pain and orthopedic issues. Sometimes it was dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, and a lot of cancer, end-of-life cancer pain. And so what I learned to do was to be that presence where I could educate them about these different options. What is cannabis? What are the cannabinoids? What are the terpenes? What are the different routes of administration? How do these work on body, mind, spirit? Explaining that to patients as concisely as I can, and then connecting them with dispensaries they could purchase this from, and shepherding those interactions, and then getting them started on a treatment plan, and then following them up. And that's how I learned how to do this, right? You learn with yourself, and you learn with some people to practice on. And that was, 2016, 2017, and I just really became in love with this field, because what I saw happening every day as I worked with these patients, we were able to slowly, together with the doctor, wean them from the oxycodone, wean them from the morphine, wean them from, and in dementia, wean them from the Ambien, the Seroquel, the Risperidol, the antipsychotics. I can't tell you how many patients' families call me and say, Elisabeth, I'm scared to death to give this to my mother. It's got a black box warning. It could kill her. And I don't want to give her this med. And we use cannabinoids in lieu of that. And I'll share you why it works in a minute. But, that's how I started learning about this. And with cannabinoids, the beauty is that they're pleiotropic. Pleiotropic is one of my favorite words, and that means that it affects many different physiologies simultaneously. So you can put that in systemically through tinctures and extracts into the body, into the bloodstream, and it helps on just about everything that is in your body.
Yeah. So now what's interesting, and I'm going to go the other direction, is COVID could hit just about everything in your body. And it turns out pleiotropic can help just about everything, because it has this multiple. So if folks can sort of wrap their head around how COVID can attack so many things, maybe then we can wrap our head around how a medication or a application of something could wrap itself around so many ways to bring comfort versus discomfort. So, I mean, for me, that sort of like ding, ding, it's certainly possible because we've seen it.
To further break down the word pleiotropic, I like to talk about this every lecture I do, because it just amazes mainly seniors that come to hear me. But when you listen to the nightly news, and I watch the NBC nightly news with Lester Holt every night, and that's like the only news I allow myself, because I know what's going on, but I'm not like poisoned by too much news anymore, right? But when you listen to the nightly news, you get all these drug ads. And it says you can take this for this condition, but then watch out for these 80 other things that might happen to you, right?
You might die, you might have a stroke, you might.
and all of these things that are building up, and then you've got pharmaceuticals that handle those side effects. And before you know it, you have what we call polypharmacy, 5 or more drugs, right? And I was a victim of that. When I crashed that bike, I was taking a dozen different pharmaceuticals. I had the Motrin and the Flexeril. I had some Effexor for depression. I had something for sleep. I had Fiorinol for migraines and Imitrex when that didn't work. I had I had asthma. I had lifelong asthma. And over a period of years, the cannabinoids have healed the inflammation in my chest, and I no longer use my Advair and my albuterol. Literally, I used to, and now I take bike rides, don't have any trouble breathing. And what is this? Now I have to explain the endocannabinoid system and why cannabis works on so many different things. Back in 1964, there was a man in Israel named Raphael Mechoulam, and we call him the godfather of medicinal cannabis. And he isolated and synthesized THC, funded by the NIH, because we couldn't study it here in this country. So we paid him over in Israel. They could investigate this. And so he was paid to understand THC, how it works, how marijuana, cannabis works in the body. And so they broke down the molecular structure of all the cannabinoids, and then they put these into the body, and through imaging, found out not till 1988, because it took a long while to do this. But in 1988, we had the ability to put this in with like PET scans so that we would see when cannabis got into the body, where it goes. And we light up like a Christmas tree. We literally have receptors throughout our entire body. CB1, generally all in the brain, the central channel. It's connected to our minds, our memory, our motor functions, our cognition, our emotions, and all of our well-being, our appetite, our pain sensation, all of the receptors down the spinal cord, interpreting and modulating pain signaling going to the brain. And then CB2, largely in the gut, in the immune cells, in the spleen, in the thymus, and all of our white blood cells, and et cetera. And that keeps us healthy. We speak about COVID. We want to fine tune the immune cells, and cannabinoids can do that to bring them back to a healthier point. So when we put cannabis in systemically, going back to my own example of my own body, helping the migraines, helping the shoulder inflammation. Over years, I now have full function in my shoulder, and I don't even take any of the Motrin and the Flexeril at all anymore. I haven't even had medicines for my migraines in a long time, because I not only tap that down so that the frequency and the severity are minimized, but they just don't happen like they used to, because my body's at balance. And what the endocannabinoid system does is it brings us back into balance. It's all about homeostasis. So, and why does cannabis work on all these receptors? Because we have endocannabinoids. And in 1992, that's when they identified, well, surely we're not hardwired for this plant. What do we make endogenously that activates all these receptors? And that's when they found anandamide, Sanskrit for bliss, ananda, and then 2-AG, our other endocannabinoid. And each one of these, through retrograde signaling, provide the feedback to balance us out at the cellular level in every part of our body.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge chunk of content right there. So our group, I think, because of some very preliminary articles we did, which is CBD and THC, are these two variations that we at least tried to introduce people to, because in dementia, these two are often really important to at least wrap your head around if you're pursuing something and you're not getting a lot of help. Well, it has been exciting to talk to you. I know there's a lot of people out there that's probably going to be getting up with you. Ooh, do you do international consults?
Yes. And what happens there, is people will call me. I've got people in Lebanon and the UK and Canada and Greece and South America. And so we do Zoom consults, and they have medicines in front of them that they've gotten given to them or they found somewhere. And they're like, how do I use it? And I break that down because, there are universal principles with all of these. And so I just teach them how to apply that. And through follow-up care, we dial things in to help them be successful.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.